Good afternoon and welcome to Burn News and Views. I'm your host, Don Burgess, and this is a very beautiful, beautiful day outside in June, and we are here with the esteemed president of the BIU, Mr. Chris Furbert. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Don. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah.
And Mr. Furbert, we're just going to jump right into it. Yesterday, you expressed disappointment with the BPSU's decision on decertification.
That's
Why
correct.
is that?
Well, I think I expressed my disappointment because you may or may not remember that on December 10, 2020, the BPSU and BIU had a joint press conference, and that joint press conference was to discuss the legislation that was coming to the House of Assembly the next day on December 11th that concerned decertification or I think the cancellation of certification of bargaining, Section 57 of the Act, and the BPSU and the BIU were very concerned about that. When the BPSU reached out to BIU and asked us, will be interested in doing a joint press statement, he says, absolutely. Decertification is something that really is would impact the BIU. So certainly we would welcome joining the BPSU, having a joint press conference, and that's what we did on the 10th of December, 2020.
Right. Now, I know for some, you've said this many times before, but what are your main points of contention for those who may have missed it over the decertification process?
I think our main points would be, and let me just say to you that when we met with when we had our press conference on the 10th, we were contacted by the minister the next day to come to an urgent meeting at his office at 12:30, and we did. The BPSU brought 3 representatives, the BIU brought 2 representatives. So we had a conversation with the minister, and basically we left that meeting with the understanding that the dialogue was going to continue. So much so that we were asked to put out a joint press statement between the BPSU and the BIU, and we sent this out to the media. So Burn News should have got it. All the other news media should have got it. It was on Friday, December 11, 2020. And it just, the last 3 paragraphs says, particularly third last paragraph says, more specifically, in keeping with the basic principles of democracy, during these talks, both unions reiterated their steadfast position that only members of a union must be allowed to participate in a decertification process. The next paragraph says, we are pleased to report that today's discussions were fruitful and resulted in an agreement that talks will continue between the parties to ensure that a mutually agreeable solution is found. And the last paragraph merely states Bermuda workers can be assured that the island unions remain on the front line and continue to strongly advocate on their behalf. Future updates will be provided as these talks progress. This was on December the 11th. So naturally enough, when the bill was finally passed on December 11th, and we were due to have further talks in January to find out exactly what we were going to be able to come up and agree with. And remember now, there are 132 or 134, 103, 104 parts of the actual bill. The only challenge the unions had a challenge with was Section 57, which deals with decertification or cancellation of certification.
Yeah. So yeah, just to summarize that, the main bone of contention would be allowing non-union members to vote for the decertification of the union.
That's correct. So basically, what I think what Section 57 of the Act says is that it lays out a process for decertification. A worker in a bargaining unit, the existing unit, may at any time on the expiration of 1 year after the union has been certified in respect to that union, make an application writing to the manager for cancellation of certification on the ground that 35% or more of the workers in that unit no longer support the union as the exclusive bargaining agent. And the unions are of the firm belief that non-union members cannot participate in a decertification ballot, and the minister and the government are saying no, everybody, because they're part of the bargaining unit and because they're all paying, rather if they're paying money to a charity, money's being taken out of the pay, so they all should be allowed to participate in a ballot for decertification. The unions have, on the contrary, have said to the minister that if you look at Section 41 of the Act, it clearly states when you're making an application for certification, where a union claims to have 35% or more workers in a proposed bargaining unit, listen to these words now, as members in good standing. So how do we have to have members in good standing for certification, but for decertification, we don't have to have members in good standing? It just makes no sense to me how the government is trying to explain how the decertification process should work, where you have non-union members being able to take away the rights of union members. And that simply should not be how this process should be working for decertification.
From your membership, what are some of the concerns or complaints that they have about this, and how upset are they about this process?
Well, I can tell you that we got a lot of phone calls the day the bill was passed in December. A lot of people stop us on the streets. What is the minister doing? Da 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 da. So I in all fairness, and if you may not remember, on December the 10th, when we had the press conference at the BIU, I came out in defense of the minister, said to be fair to the minister, the 1998 Act, lays out this word, no longer support the union. It's right there in 30P of the 1965 Act. It's right there. So the minister's not bringing anything new to the table. What is bringing to the table was this whole question of looking at consolidating all the acts, and in that process, what the union thought we were going to do was cleaning up the areas that needed to be cleaned up as far as where the unions had concerns about, and we had concerns about 30P of the of cancellation certification under the 65 Act, and now on the 57 Act, it appears to be the exact same. And that's basically where the challenge lies. The process is now going to be the exact same under the new Act 2021 as it is for the 1998, that non-union members are going to participate in a ballot for decertification. Because once you have an agency shop ballot, that's saying once you have an agency shop ballot, all workers in the bargaining can participate in a ballot for decertification. And that's a real issue.
Yeah. Now, why do you feel that grandfathering in from the 1965 Act is a good way to go as a compromise?
Well, for now will be a good way to go, because certainly the government has its position, the unions have it, well, the BIU has its position on this, and our main concern right now is, first of all, we don't want tomorrow, if we're not going to come on this act as that went effect as yesterday, once you stop the run of those areas that we don't have, real strong membership in some of those areas to run now and have a ballot for decertification, and now they're voting the union up. Those things can happen. We can't just take that for granted. And as I said in the press conference yesterday, the BIUs, our bargaining units, 70% of them, or 70, almost 75% of them, out in the private sector. We have about 20%, about 25% of our members in government. So that's pretty secure. But the other 75%, we're talking about hotels, we're talking about telco, we're talking about docks, we're talking about all these areas right now. We're talking about a decertification ballot, or people who decide that they don't want to be union members anymore. Remember now, we have to have members in good standing in accordance with our Constitution. So we got a further clarification, or those words no longer support the union. What does that mean? It means that you got to be a member in good standing. And I think what the unions proposed to the government was a reasonable proposal. In that respect, we only asked for the government to look at all. We gave them a breakdown of all of these sections of Section 57. Our proposal to the minister on the 30th, we gave them a full section of 57.1. The words are about the same, but we only wanted to add the words who are members of the union in good standing. And those words we want them added to paragraph number 1, paragraph number 5, and paragraph number 8. Now, there were some changes also to 6 and 7 that deal with the percentages, but we were mainly concerned about our members in good standing being able to support and being able to vote, in a ballot of decertification.
Right. Now, if you said that some of your members were worried about these things could happen, that their union could be decertified, yeah. How real of a threat do you feel that is if this passes?
Well, remember now, I can take you back just to I think it was 2019, and it might have been just a little bit. I think it was 19, late middle 19. We lost a ballot for decertification at IBC. Basically, what happened is that the workforce development, or the labor department, the management team wanted everybody to participate in the ballot for decertification. The union argued that only union members should be able to participate. The only reason why only union members participate in that ballot is because they never had an agency shop ballot take place. So because there was no people paying to agency shop, the only people that voted in that decertification process were union members. And the union members voted, and the union members, we lost. We were the union, I think we lost, it was 8-6 or 9-5. The union never complained about losing the ballot for decertification. Why? Because it was all members participated, and they voted the union out. at IBC in 2019. We accepted the fact. So we've had about 3 or 4 ballots for decertification. We lost down at the airport, probably back in 2000 and maybe 17, with the Sky Caps and 1 or 2 other members down there that we had, I think, maybe in engineering. So we had about 12 or 14 members down there. We lost a ballot down there for a decertification ballot down there. We lost, and the BPSU also lost a decertification ballot at the airport around the same time at the airport. So these processes, they're not out there. They're out there. And if you don't open up the door, who's to say that they're not going to be stepped up even more as a result of this new act? And that's our main concern.
If government insists on this new decertification policy, what is the next step for the BIU?
Well, certainly I can tell you that right now we've got our lawyers. We've got taking a legal position. We're looking at certainly the understanding that the government has is that they believe that this new law is, I think the words they use is fair and reasonable. Well, it would appear that the new law is being fair and reasonable for the people who are not union members, and not being that fair and reasonable for people who are union members. You can look at it that way because that's the way we're looking at it. That certainly, and we have to say this, you got a Labor Party that's putting legislation on the table that favors non-labor. We're trying to understand this. This is not rocket science. The Employers Council is a registered trade union. You cannot tell me that any a company that's not a member of the Employers Council will be able to go and vote in a process where the Employers Council requires a vote for things to happen. If they're not paying any annual fees for membership in the Employers Council as a union, they can't go in and have a vote. So the same thing should apply here.
Right. Yeah. No, I know, like last year, just to switch to other union matters. Last year, over this past year, we've had problems with stevedoring services where people have had to walk off the job and down tools a couple of times because of issues with management. Have these been sorted out at this point?
Well, all I can tell you is that I think those issues happened late last year. I want to say September and October last year. I think it was, if my memory serves correctly. They've because we had the issue of outsourcing the garage, where the management team went to outsource the garage, and the union was insisting that that's not, that weren't right. I think we gave the management in the end, the management put a proposal on the table to outsource the garage for a year, and then we'll come back around the table and see whether or not the cost savings are worth it, and whether or not if we can get the cost savings, can we now have a conversation about including them back in the bargaining and a number of other things. So the relationship has gotten a little bit better. I think over time it's gotten a little bit better. I think there is still room for improvement. I'm no longer the organizer there, as I said to you a few moments ago before we decided to come on live stream, that we have our brother Arnold Smith is the organizer there now. I worked on the docks for 24 years. I was the organizer for about almost 20 years. But I just saw where the management team had decided that they wanted to deal with the BIU members, but they didn't want to deal with the management team. And I told them, if we're not going to be fair across the board for all the staff, then I can't be a part of this process. So I stepped down as the organizer.
Right. Are there any other union issues that you wish to discuss, or anything that the Bermuda public should know about?
Well, I mean, I think what should be a real issue of concern for not just, I think, BIU members, but also for the country at large. We're having conversations about, a livable wage. We understand that the committee just finished establishing a minimum wage, and I done, an interview with Mr. Fox the other day. I couldn't call his first name, David. I done an interview with David Fox, and about the report on the minimum wage, and we have our real concerns about this process. There's too much information out there for us to now decide to take another year to now establish a living wage, and people are frustrated. Their earned income is they don't see any disposable income. They don't see any real help coming anytime in the near future. And every week that goes by, every month that goes by, And certainly every year that goes by, people become more and more frustrated. It's time for us to sit down as a country and make the right decisions so the people can see that the government and the people are looking out for, the people's best interests. And I think that, Bermuda is a country that we're done well through the pandemic. We had a few outbreaks, but right now it looks like we're heading on the right path. I just would like for the government, the opposition, businesses, union, everybody come together, sit in the room, and have a conversation about how we can fix this whole question about income and inequality in Bermuda, in a country that is the most expensive country to live in. It's the most expensive country to retire in. It's number one as relates to cost of living. And I don't see how we can have all these number ones and we can not sit down and have a conversation about how we're going to improve things for the lot of Bermudians.
Right. So it would be your position then that they should go ahead and improve the minimum wage now, and then after the living wage proposals put forth, then make adjustments for that.
My point is, we don't need a year to do a livable wage. We probably need 3 months, and I don't think we need any more than that. And I'm saying that as someone and I know that Mr. Carter O'Reilly, who's valuer of the information that's out there, because I know he's talked to quite a few people around the world about a living wage or whatever. It should not take us another 12 months to put together a living wage and then another 12 months or 24 months after that to implement it. So we're talking about, in essence, will probably be another 18 months, 3 years down the road before we get a livable wage. People cannot wait for 3 more years. We've been talking about this for 6 years now, For 6 years we've been talking about this livable wage. The BIU in 1981, the government employees and hospital employees, Dr. Bull at the bargaining table was talking about a livable wage for the government employees and the hospital employees in 1981, 40 years ago. When are we going to wake up and we got all these reports that we get from year to year, and they just sit on the shelf, collect dust, and we're going to dust them off or bring somebody else here to tell us something else about a report before we decide to make some hard decisions? We got all the data. All the data is here. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to nobody. We have all the data we need to have to make all the decisions we need to have to make right now. We got all the data. And I would challenge anyone to come and refute. We don't have the data to support what we need to do. I would challenge anyone.
Yeah, I know, like with the Joint Select Committee that was led by Rolf Commission, they put out figures there that were higher than the minimum wage a couple of years ago. So they had that long report already.
Well, and I said this. If you think about it, right? We have the 1994 Darty-Newman report. The Darty-Newman report of 1994 addresses the wages for 1991. If you take 1991 to now, it's 30 years down the road. In 1991, you had a lone parent making I think it was $2,600 a month. If you work that out times 12, divided back by 52, is $600 a week. For a 40-hour work week, it's $15 an hour. Back in 1991, $15 an hour. If you look at the rate of inflation from then up to 2020, that person should be making almost $28 or $29 an hour right now. They should be making. Where you getting these? Where are these numbers coming from? Look, I'm trying to be reasonable, I'm trying to be fair. But when I'm sitting on that committee having a conversation, I'm telling people we got the Newman report. We're looking at all these stats around the world about retirement, the most expensive place to retire. I mean, United States is number 27. Bermuda's number 1. We need $1,065,000 to retire, and that's over a 14-year period. In the United States, the numbers like maybe 600 and something thousand. So we're like $400,000 difference between us and the United States. Now that just made that minimum wage $15. And what got our low end at 13 and the high end at 17. But when we look at the retirement, and we look at everything else, we're so much more expensive.
Right.
I just don't understand how we're coming up with these decisions. It's just like we're making these, this is my opinion, these political decisions because we don't want to hurt this. First of all, the cost of living in this country is too high and it's got to come down. So we can start beginning to give people some more disposable income.
Okay. That's pretty passionate there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to say before we?
No. I think that, I look forward to expressing, as I said, I've always said, I think that the BIU, I think people have a lot of respect for this organization that I have the opportunity to be the current general president of for the past 15 years. And I think they look forward to, the BIU's dialogue on certain issues, but we will continue to advocate on behalf of our members and on behalf of the workers of Bermuda to make sure that we can have a better quality of life for the people of Bermuda, which includes the BIU membership.
All right. Mr. Furbert, I know you have a meeting shortly, so I appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. And for
Really
all of, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm glad I could be here, and I'm glad I accepted the invitation to come and have a second body chair, if you can put it that way, from yesterday's press conference, and have another interview today with Brian News. So I do thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome.
Sure.
On behalf of all the staff here at Burn News, as always, we wish you a beautiful afternoon.